Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. Before I get into today's episode, I want to let you know that I have a few openings remaining in the fall schedule for situational awareness programs. Has your department hosted a situational awareness matters tour stop yet? No? Seriously? What are you waiting for? Did you know that issues related to situational awareness, or the barriers that flaw situational awareness, are implicated in nearly every significant firefighter casualty report? It's a really, really big deal. The problem is most firefighters know so little about it. They think so long as they pay attention or keep their head on a swivel that they'll have good situational awareness. And as anyone who's attended any of my programs know, this simply is not the case. Sure, paying attention is part of the situational awareness development process, but it isn't all of it. There is so much more to this. Those who think that it's just about paying attention are simply uninformed. Don't be uninformed on a topic that is this important, a topic that can literally save your life. There's too much at stake, as situational awareness serves as the foundation for good decision making, and it's the decision making that drives the actions that lead to successful outcomes or catastrophic outcomes. If you're interested in getting a program scheduled, visit samatters.com and click on the Contact Us link, and we'll get something set up for you this fall. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Captain Eric Dryman from the Indianapolis Fire Department, and you are listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello, and welcome to episode 117 of the Situation Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Ames, Iowa, where I am in town to deliver a situational awareness program for the Iowa Fire Training Bureau. This is the second time the Situational Awareness Matters tour stop has come to Ames. Thank you to the Iowa Fire Training Bureau for your faith and confidence in my message. From that program in Ames, I'm going on to Overland Park, Kansas for a program tomorrow, and then on to Shawnee, Oklahoma for a program the following day. Because these departments were able to schedule their programs back to back, each received a substantial discount on the program fee. Something to think about. If you're interested in attending an upcoming Situation Awareness Matters tour stop, head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. More than 500 agencies on 4 continents have hosted Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events. I mentioned at the top of the show that I was booking for 2016. Well, I'm also booking actively for 2017 right now. So contact me if you want to get on the schedule. Here's a tip for how to host a program at a reduced cost. I schedule many what I call companion programs. That's what I'm doing right now. These are programs on adjoining days with other programs. So if you see I'm delivering a program within a couple hours of your agency and you want to tag along as a companion, contact me. You could save as much as 20% off the cost of being a companion program. That's what I did last week in Texas with the Texas Interagency Mutual Aid Association Conference. Sci-Fair was the companion. That's what I did in Michigan when I did a program for Eastern Michigan University. Brighton Area Fire was the companion. That's what I did in Montana when I did the Montana Fire Alliance Conference. Spokane Fire Department was the companion. If you want to be put on the list of let me know when you're going to be in my area, contact me through the SA Matters website. and I'll put you on a list and send you a notice when I'm going to be in your area, and you might be able to tag along as a companion. Okay, in today's feature segment, it's the second part of a two-part interview that I conducted with Battalion Chief Ryan Pyle of the Shawnee, Kansas Fire Department. This is a story of where a firefighter was killed at a house fire, and B.C. Pyle, then Captain Pyle, was the partner of this firefighter on the interior search. On May 22, 2010, John Glaser, a 33-year-old career firefighter, died while conducting a primary search at a residential house fire. Firefighter Glaser vomited in his SCBA facepiece and then removed it, causing him to inhale products of combustion. He was 15 feet from the door. 15 feet. The fire was reported at 13408 West 75th Court. When firefighters arrived, they found the home burning out of control. The neighbors told the firefighters that they thought the two people and a dog were inside. Firefighters began attacking the fire and searching the home. As they were searching the home at 9:12 p.m., Captain Pyle transmitted a mayday call because Firefighter Glaser was missing. In part one of the interview, Battalion Chief Pyle talked us through the incident from the beginning through the doctor's declaration that John had indeed died. In this interview, we talk about everything that happened after that and the lessons learned from the incident, including some of the things that came out in the NIOSH report. I'm going to jump into the feature segment now, but when I'm done, stick around because I'm going to announce where the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops are going to be. All right, let's jump into our feature segment, part 2 of the interview with Battalion Chief Ryan Pyle of the Shawnee, Kansas Fire Department, talking about their line-of-duty death event. The interview picks up with me asking Ryan to discuss or tell us what happened after John Glaser was pronounced dead at the hospital.
Well, when I left the hospital, we went back to Station 71. At this point, numerous members, a lot of our firefighters were there, doing anything they could. I think a lot of them didn't know what to do. They took us back there. We immediately began debriefing, which is a standard practice for us. They have a team in Johnson County that they rotate being on call. And, by now it's approaching midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So we each have to tell what our role was, what happened, So I'm 2 or 3 hours removed, if that, 2 hours removed from the worst day of my professional life by far, the worst moment of my professional life. And we're having to talk about it. They release us to go home. The other members of the department and, again, adjoining agencies stepped up, and they're covering stations. We had Overland Park and Lenexa Fire Department at the fire. There were no Shawnee personnel there. We left our trucks there, and they finished the job. The very next morning, we were called about 8:30 to go in to give our account of what happened to the investigators who had already started their investigation. So I gave my oral, the oral part to the two investigators. Then people that were intimately involved in it were packed up, and we went to the house. And that was one of the hardest parts of it for me was going back to that house because, as well or better than anybody, things look a lot different in the daytime with no smoke and no fire than they do when you're crawling in a zero visibility structure. Mm-hmm. And at that time it looked so easy, and I'll never forget seeing those two doors that I didn't know were there. and I was inches from that. And at that, even at that, during the incident, one of the guys was standing right at that door, and I redirected him and told him to go a different way. I didn't know those doors were there. And to see that in the daytime and to be questioned about, okay, where were you? Where do you think you were when John said, help me? And, you know, he wasn't that far. But that night it seemed like he was a long ways away. So that, you know, that was a tough part for me. So we get done with that. They release us to go home. The next day or so is filled with interviews with different authorities, trying to figure out what happened. More debriefings. So that was a large part of what we did for those next day. Somebody was always with John at the funeral home. 2 days after the fire, yet another difficult thing was I had to go with the fire chief to his widow's house. John left at that time a 6-month-old little girl and a 2.5-year-old boy. So I went to their house with the fire chief, and his wife and his dad opened the door, and all I could say was, I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to say. They were very welcoming, as they had always been. We had some conversations. They were still all very much in shock. But as we were leaving that day, I'll never forget, and it's been part of what's driven me to talk about it and share the story is John's dad. One day, maybe a day and a half removed from losing his son, told me, losing my son is a tragedy. If you fall apart, that's 2 tragedies. He said, so turn this into something good. And I thought that was a really important thing to say. It's meant a lot in my life. And that's somebody that just lost their son. So I've honored his wishes and John's by telling this story. So that's powerful.
All right. Tell me, keep going. You're gonna have a funeral.
Yeah,
and I want you to talk about that. I want people to hear what this is like to live this through your experience.
Okay, well, that next week it's just a whirlwind. We have the funeral. It's massive. We put John on the engine. It's surreal to go into your station that you've been working at for years and see them putting the funeral bunting and the retrofitting the engine that you're on to put one of your members on. It's stuff you read about, stuff you see, other people go through, but it's much different when you go through it. So, we laid John to rest, and it never goes away. It's always with you. They gave us as much time as we needed. I took 3 shifts. Some guys took 1 shift, and then we came back to work. And that's not an easy thing to do. But I think it's an important thing to do to get back on the rig. And so we were back to work, but it doesn't end there. They give you a little bit of time to get through things, and then NIOSH comes and they do their investigation. I found them to be extremely professional. I found them to be extremely sensitive to what what is going on. I at no point felt like I was in an inquisition. They really do a good job, but it's just reliving that over and over and over. So that week after the incident was nonstop go. We spent a lot of time together as a department. We had unbelievable support from other departments in Johnson County. Our stations were staffed 24 hours a day. Nobody missed a beat. So it was special to see, but I wouldn't want to ever do it again under those circumstances.
Did you guys ever have any contact with the owner of the house?
Not me personally. The investigators did. The fire was ruled accidental. So I never had any personal connection with him, no.
Mm-hmm. Was the house saved, or was it tore down?
No, they rebuilt it. Okay. So, oftentimes we'll get a call in that area, and it comes right back to you.
When you got back on the job, did you find yourself having any difficulty with your confidence, or getting back in the saddle, so to speak?
Yeah, I did. I was waiting for that next fire. I felt like I needed to get that under my belt, and when I did, and it went well, that helped a lot. But it never goes away. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about John. And that's good. My confidence was shaken a little bit. I had been a big proponent of everyone goes home and firefighter safety and things like that. And for a period of time, I felt like I had let everybody down and let myself down, and but we've learned from it. I think of talking about it. I'm not suggesting that it should be everybody's way of handling it, but I think it's important, because whether I tell the story or I don't tell the story isn't going to change that John is gone. Mm-hmm. So if anybody can learn anything, just by hearing the story, and that's what I typically do when I do the presentation that has the audio and pictures of the structure. I just tell the story, and I tell everybody, there's no questions that are out of bounds. I want people to know that it is very real. It doesn't matter the size of department you're from. It doesn't matter what the size of the structure you're in. Those things don't matter. It doesn't matter how many years you've had on the job. It doesn't matter how much education you've had. These things happen, and we've got to find a way to get better and eliminate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you guys learn from this? What maybe individually and departmentally, what did you learn, and did you change anything?
Well, initially we didn't do wholesale changes. We took a long look at how we did things. I would say now we are much, much improved in the area of training. We have had some captains that were intimately involved in this incident really step up and become advocates, teachers, and really masters of managing a mayday. And again, this was a pretty unorthodox thing that happens. I think we all know, if you've been on the job any period of time, I think we all know people that have thrown up in their mask or thrown up somewhere on the scene. I don't ever remember hearing of an incident where somebody threw up in their mask and it led to their death. So that's one of the things that these guys trained on. They actually took cans of chunky soup, poured it into their mask, and came up with a way of doing, getting anything out of your mask, whether it be vomit or any other foreign object, with, a better way to do it than to pull your entire mask off. So they trained on that. We've had lengthy discussions about, who should have the camera. And I think that's an important thing. One of the questions I get asked on a fairly regular basis, anytime I talk about this, is bringing that line in, and why wasn't the line charged? Because I've had people ask me, do you think John would have found his way out if the line would have been charged? And my answer to that is no, I don't. And the reason I say that is I was straddling the line, and had he been moving towards the line, yeah, maybe a charged line he would have been able to feel it, but John was moving away from it. So in this particular situation, I would say that it probably wouldn't have made a difference. But that's a good discussion to have at the company level. Is if taking a line in on a search is one of your practices, that's a discussion to have. So we've done things like that. I think we've gotten better at the little things, the managing the mayday, because it's so much more real now, and it's unfortunate that we have to go through this to get to the point where we realize that, okay, we need to make some changes in these areas. One thing that made it extremely difficult for this particular fire is even the NIOSH report was pretty vague. We had some communication issues, the things that are in pretty much every NIOSH report, but it was hard to pinpoint exactly what could have been done to prevent this incident. And that's been a hard thing for me. And I didn't think it would be, but I think it would have been really helpful to have that. If you would have done this, this would have not happened. And we just don't have that one thing. Short of when John took his mask off, we were on borrowed time. And with the smoke conditions and what the medical directors told us as far as, what the survivability profile of somebody in those conditions, you just didn't have much time.
Mm-hmm. How far were you guys into the house?
I would say 15 feet, and that would be on the long end.
So 15 feet from fresh air.
15 feet from fresh air, yes.
Man, that is so scary.
It is. And Dr. Gasaway, that's why I tell people, don't get fooled by, the size of the structure, things like that. Yeah, obviously a small structure, you've got a better chance. I do believe that, but I think there's a false sense of security when somebody goes into a 1,500 square foot house and thinks, well, the old bread and butter, cookie cutter house, bread and butter fire. Once your mask comes off, you better have a solution real quick.
Yeah.
That 1,500 square feet or a 10,000 square feet, you better have some fresh air very, very quick, or be very close to somebody that can get you out. You just don't have much time in those conditions. This was by no means laminar smoke. This was serious floor to ceiling, zero visibility, heat and smoke.
Was the smoke coming from burning vehicles?
It was.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can all put in our mind what that smoke looks like.
Right. And now take 3 burning vehicles in a confined area and what I term as a chimney going straight up the stairs,
yeah, with
nothing to stop it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a significant amount of smoke.
Was your crew first in, second in?
We were second in, but we were the first ones in the building. They were knocking down the fire on the Bravo side with a 2.5
from the outside.
And from the outside, I mean, they had fire coming out of the garages, going up into the eaves, but they were, and anybody listening to your show's been on car fires, and we all know they can be stubborn. Well, that's the same thing they were running into with the 3 cars in the basement, or that I call it the basement. It was a garage, with a living space next to it. So I mean, they weren't able to make a significant amount of headway. They were trying, but the cars were just being stubborn. There was a significant amount of fire load, not to mention everything else that's in a typical garage.
Now, you said that you guys as a result of this, got better at managing maydays. Tell me what you did and how you got better.
Well, what I think we did was we started talking a little bit more about what I spoke about earlier is, those maydays when you don't have a lot of information, maydays when it's not necessarily you falling through the floor, you becoming disoriented. What do you do when you have those maydays and you don't have all that information, or you don't know exactly what happened? You go in a front door and one of your company falls through the floor. That's a lot of information you can give in a short period of time.
Did you guys practice calling maydays for someone else?
We have since then. Yeah. Didn't before. No,
I don't. I get around quite a bit, and I don't know anybody that has built that into that. There'll be a listener out there that says, "We do it." Okay, good for you. I see a lot of departments doing a lot of training. I get to see that firsthand, and I don't recall seeing that where you practice calling the mayday for someone else, and that's a pretty important skill.
It is, and it's not something that we think about a lot. We have the Pittsburgh drill props. We have the prop that you put a dowel rod on a piece of hinged wood and you simulate falling into the basement. What do? We had all those things, and it's something that we drilled on, but that's all working under the assumption that you knew exactly what happened. And again, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but that's my takeaway from this is, the first thing is we need to practice on not being in that situation in the first place. If you don't ever have to call a mayday, that's best case scenario. But if you do end up in a situation where you have to call a mayday, be prepared for all those scenarios. I'm not advocating that we don't train for calling a mayday on yourself. I absolutely think that's a vital skill. But let's expand that. Let's expand that to calling a mayday when you don't have all the information or you don't know. When you can't even fill out lunar because you don't have all of those pieces. It is my opinion that we need to readjust our thinking. And we have one captain in particular, again, who is intimately involved in the rescue, has taken that upon himself. And he is a very passionate, strong leader. And he has done some unbelievably good things for our department. And he's extended that out to other departments on that mayday, and that was driven by, I believe that was driven by that incident. He's done exhaustive research on how to never put himself in that position, and I would trust him with anything at this point, for sure.
Now, you said that you did some training on how to manage, excuse me, through a situation where a person might emaciate in their face piece, and you said you used some chunky soup and stuff. So did you all learn? What is there better way or a best practice way to deal through this if it happens? I'm guessing a lot of departments haven't gone to the extent that you have to figure out how to manage through that. Give some advice.
There is no great way, and I'm just going to speak from there are others in my organization that are much better to talk to about this, but because they've done that exhaustive research. But the best way that we have found is, if this happens, just to take your face piece off a little. Just open that up, turn your bypass on, so where you get that free flow. Things like that can really go a long way. The danger becomes is when your mask is completely off. It's very hard to get back on in those conditions. Maybe in a controlled environment when you're thinking about it and there's no imminent danger, maybe to be a little bit easier. But I encourage departments to just think about it. Because I'm not sure we have all the answers, and I don't want to imply that we do. But what those guys have found is by taking your mask off just a little bit, enough to get that out of there and turn it on your bypass, that's going to buy you a lot of time and not panicking. The person that has the most answers about this situation is the one person we can't talk to, that being John. We would love to have that conversation of, how to best do this. But I think he got in a situation that he couldn't get himself out of. And unfortunately he was on the move, and that made it difficult. And I honestly believe that he thought he was going out of the building. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we've done. But the best way to do it, I think, is encourage people to try their own way. It doesn't have to be vomit. It could be any foreign matter in your mask. I mean, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is, let's figure out how to keep that mask on no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the conclusion we've come to, is removing your mask even a little way or all the way is an absolute last resort. And we should train to not have that happen, as opposed to when it does happen. That should be our primary focus.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is an amazing story. If anyone out there listening wanted to follow up with you, say they've got some questions, or maybe they're even interested in having you come in and share this story at their department, how do they find you?
I can be reached at the Shawnee Fire Department. I would be happy to provide my email address, which is rpyle@cityofshawnee.org. And again, there's no question I won't answer. I may not have the answer to it, but I'll sure attempt to answer. And again, out of this incident, there has been a captain who I believe has become a master at managing the mayday, and a retired captain who's now a chief in another organization, who also he was the RIT supervisor, and he does an excellent job of talking about mayday without a voice. And we briefly touched on that today, is, that mayday without a voice. How do you call mayday on somebody that can't talk? Mm-hmm. And that's so very important. And I think it's gotten lost somehow. I'm sure there are listeners who have done that, and I applaud them. But prior to this incident, that's not something we ever did.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a lot that haven't. I observe a lot of this training firsthand, and I've not run into it. So that's going to be a valuable takeaway for the listeners to do that drill and to practice that.
Yeah, it's been important for us, I think. And I think we've just the everyday training, the emphasis on those skills. I think it's easy, especially now, to get caught in so many other things going on in the fire service. Certainly EMS, which is like everybody else, the majority of what we do, that has become a real emphasis, as it should. But, I don't want to lose that like Gordon Graham says, that high risk, low frequency. I don't want to lose that the importance of training on those, because those are the ones that that's getting firefighters killed. I'm certainly not saying that we should not focus on those other areas of our job. We need to be proficient in all those, but I think there's a balance, and I think that we really need to stick to learning some of those skills and thinking outside the box. I never ever fathomed a situation where the two things being somebody vomiting in their mask, what do you do? I would have never thought to train on that. Mm-hmm. The other thing is again, the mayday. Calling a mayday on anybody but myself or somebody that is right next to me that fell through the floor, and I have all this information that I can give everybody.
Right.
I just didn't have it that night, and I don't know if the outcome would have been different, but I think we could have put ourselves in a more advantageous situation for a better outcome.
Well, I applaud your department for learning and doing some things new and differently. I can't tell you how many times I've been places where they've had a line of duty death, and I say, what did y'all change or do differently or train differently? And they've done nothing. They just almost go on as if nothing happened. and you can imagine how frustrating that is for me to hear that, and then how encouraging it is for me to hear that you guys are looking at something that is has a very low likelihood of happening again, and focusing some attention on it to say, if it does, we're gonna be better prepared if anything like this happens again. And you talk about those low frequency things. We're talking about something that happens that when it happens, the decision making is something that needs to occur in the 10 to 30 seconds afterwards, because it sets some very tight timelines into motion that it's either going to quickly resolve or quickly turn tragic.
Right. And you're absolutely right. I can't say that we have made all these sweeping policy changes. I think those are all great. What I'm most proud of is the people that were most intimately involved in it have done things kind of their own way. But they've made major contributions. And I think that's the thing I'm most proud of. The captain, who was a firefighter then, the captain now, he has taken it upon himself to, again, I know I've used this several times throughout this show, but he has become what I believe to be a master at managing the mayday. The retired captain has taken it upon himself to speak about the mayday without a voice. To me, those are the things that have the most benefit. You can make policy changes, and that's good, and maybe that may be needed in certain situations. But I think we have an opportunity to educate people in the fire service by going out there and telling the story, and coming up with ways to make it better. And and I think our organization did a great job at this, and we didn't accept this as it's part of the job. It happens. Mm-hmm. It did happen, but it hasn't gone without we've really put up a pretty significant fight afterwards to try to make things better for everybody else, and did it for John and the rest of the fire service. And I hope that anytime anybody has a question, they reach out, and if I don't know the answer, I'm pretty sure I can get somebody that could point them in the right direction. And but it's been a humbling experience. We miss John dearly. Again, not a day goes by that we don't think of him, but this is a way to honor him and his sacrifice, because it's nothing you want anybody to go through. It is no badge of honor at all.
Have you guys created any kind of memorial for him?
We have. We had a memorial in front of Station 71. It's called a Protector Memorial. We had a police officer die in the line of duty many years back, and they made this memorial. Our full intention was to never have a name on that plaque, but we do now. In addition, this last year marked the 5-year anniversary, and we had a ceremony and named Station 71 the John B. Glaser Fire Station. So his locker remains as it did that day. Will never be messed with, and I think we've done a good job of keeping his memory in the forefront. Everybody that gets hired at the station, gets hired at our department, gets my 2.5 hour diatribe, whether they want it or not. They get to hear the story, and after they hear the story, we give them a pin to put on their Class A, because we want them to understand that while they weren't involved in the incident or weren't there when the incident occurred, this is part of their history now.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've done several things.
Good. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to share this story on this platform. Because this podcast gets a fair number of listeners, and what you've been able to do then with sharing it is to not only share John's story, but your personal story of what it was like to go through this. And I hope that every listener is shaking their head and saying to themselves, I never want to go through this. I never want to have this happen. And it'll inspire them to train harder, be more fit. And not that John wasn't, he's a triathlete. But to keep in the forefront of their mind how quickly life can be taken from us. I'm going to call this episode inspired by something that you said 15 feet from fresh air, because that was the gut punch for me when we determined that was your distance to be out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak about what I believe to be an important topic. I also want to thank my colleagues at the Shawnee Fire Department who have taken a horrible incident and, again, in their own ways have made great strides in the fire service. And I appreciate everything you're doing, and I fully support your mission, and I look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Can you imagine having a line of duty death and you being the partner of the firefighter who died? The courage it must take to share your story. Thank you, Battalion Chief Ryan Pyle, for sharing the details of the lessons learned of this very tragic event. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, like Ryan did, contact me by visiting the SA Matters website and click on the Contact Us link on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned, like this ones you just got from Ryan, from a near miss, or in this case a line of duty death, could save the life of another first responder. Can you imagine a greater gift that you could give to somebody than a lesson that could save their life? If you want to share your experience, contact me. Okay, as I always do, I want to take a moment to thank the departments and the organizations that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop events. I do this to show my appreciation to the organizations who put forth the effort to organize, advertise, and fund great training experiences for their members and others in their region. Your efforts to bring this valuable and powerful training on situational awareness and high-risk, high-consequence decision-making to your members and others in your region are greatly appreciated. Recent Situational Awareness Matters tour stops included the Eastern Michigan University, the Texas Intrastate Fire Mutual Aid Association, the Brighton Area Fire Department, and the Cy-Fair Fire Department in Texas. When I get home from this trip, I'm going to take a few days off to enjoy Independence Day with my family. This may be the first time that my entire family has been together since Christmas. I can't begin to tell you how exciting that's going to be for me. If you're interested in joining us for an upcoming SA Matters tour stop, you could, where I am now, you won't be able to attend this one, the Iowa Fire Training Bureau in Ames, Iowa. And then by the time this episode airs, I will have completed programs for the Overland Park Fire Department and Overland Park, Kansas. This is the department that Ryan was filling in for with his department in Shawnee when they had the line of duty death. So it's going to be interesting to have some conversations with the folks there in Overland Park. And then I'm going on to another Shawnee, Oklahoma, for a program on the following day. Also, by the time this episode airs, I will be in the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota for my annual wilderness canoe trip. I've taken this trip to the Boundary Waters every year since 2005. It's the highlight of my summer. And then on July 23 to 26, I will be attending the National Speakers Association annual convention in Phoenix, Arizona. Following the NSA convention, I'm going on a Boy Scout high adventure trip, sailing with the Boy Scouts for 14 days on a boat off the tip of Florida with my 16-year-old son. No work distractions for me, no technology for him. This might make a good episode of Survivor. Anyhow, we'll see how that goes. Then I'll be back on the road August 17, 19, and 20. 3 programs for Fire Rescue International in San Antonio. Thank you to the International Association of Fire Chiefs for giving me the opportunity to present at FRI. More than 10 years in a row now, including the opportunity that you gave me to keynote the conference in Chicago. I'm deeply honored by your support of my message. August 22 to 26, I'll be doing a Company Officer Development Institute program in Zionsville, Indiana. The Company Officer Development Institute is a week long. No PowerPoint, no book, no theory, no BS. Just straightforward lessons that company officers need to be successful in their positions. Teaching them how to keep the problems out of the chief's office, how to prevent problems, and how to solve problems at the company level. Then August 27th, I'll be staying on in Zionsville for a encore situational awareness program. August 28th, program for the Heartland Deerfield, Michigan Fire Department. Hey, if you're anywhere in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, or Wisconsin, this is going to be a great trip to come along as a companion because I'm driving to the Indiana and the Michigan program. So I'll be traveling through Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. So if you want to tag along as a companion, that's a great one to tag along with. September 8th, I'll be keynoting the Arizona State Fire School in Mesa, and that'll be a great opportunity if you're in Arizona to companion along. September 10th, program for the Upper Providence Township, Pennsylvania Fire Department near Philadelphia. Again, another great companion if you're in Pennsylvania, Maryland, or New Jersey. Good to tag along, get a discount there. September 13th, 14th, I'll be in Horry County, South Carolina. That's the Myrtle Beach area. Another good companion opportunity if you're in South or North Carolina. September 23, I'll be keynoting the Wisconsin Fire Chiefs Association Conference. September 29th, a program for the Welcome Fire Department in Minnesota. September 30th, I will be giving the keynote address to the recruit class graduation of the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Fire Department, and then doing a program for their leadership team. Thanks so much to all the program hosts, and here's hoping there will be a tour stop near you and we'll get a chance to meet up. Hey, the last time I was in southern Minnesota doing Situational Awareness Matters programs, I stopped by and visited my sponsor of this podcast show, Midwest Fire. Midwest Fire makes all poly fire apparatus, and it's changing the industry. Seriously, it is. You got to see them. Check them out, MidwestFire.com. I saw a piece of this poly fire apparatus that they shot with a .38 caliber revolver, and it did not penetrate the poly. It's tough stuff. Imagine getting into minor accidents, and all you're doing is just bouncing off something instead of sending your truck in for weeks and weeks of body work. Pretty incredible. Check them out, MidwestFire.com. Anyhow, I got a chance to sit down and talk to a few of the Midwest Fire employees about what separates them from their competitors. Let's listen into a conversation I had with engineer Tyler LeBrun. So, Tyler, what differentiates the manufacturing process here at Midwest Fire as, say, compared to the competitors who build fire trucks as well? What makes you stand out in comparison?
I don't really know exactly what kind of systems the other competitors have in place, but the one thing that I really think that sets us apart that I've seen in the side of the manufacturing field is trying to implement and adhere to some different lean ideologies, and that being said, lean manufacturing really helps us deliver a better quality product more efficiently with less waste to the customer. And also on the other side of that, I think the team that we have here, our manufacturing team and all the people that we have, with the way we work together, the teamwork that we have, and everybody's positive attitude, and it may sound kind of cliche, but the can-do spirit that we have, I think, really helps us, separate ourselves from the competition.
But I think one thing too that I noticed when we were touring around on the shop floor is, as I looked around, I didn't see hundreds of employees. This is not a company that employs hundreds of people. It's an employee it's a company that employs a small number of employees with a great deal of dedication, and obviously that lends some to this teamwork and this sense of family that is going on here that might actually be an asset compared to a large company where an employee just might be a number.
Exactly, most definitely, and that's something that we see is all of our employees are able to work together to build these trucks, because it's not something that they're just going to sit in their station and only do their work. If they see that somebody else needs help, they're going to go over there and help them do that, help them get ahead in their part of the process so that the product can keep flowing through the manufacturing floor.
Nice, thank you. So that's really example of what separates Midwest Fire on the manufacturing side from their competitors. So check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you, Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison and all your staff for your awesome commitment to improving first responder safety. I sincerely appreciate your support of my mission and your sponsorship of this podcast radio show. Hey, if you're interested in seeing a listing of the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop locations, head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. The schedule is always changing, so check back often. I want to share some feedback I received about this podcast on iTunes. Every episode I ask listeners to go to iTunes and say something nice if they like the show, and I guess everybody just thinks somebody else is going to do it because I don't really get that many comments, but I'd love to. I'd really love to hear from you. And if you like the show while you're there, give it a 5-star review. I cannot begin to tell you how that would motivate me to work harder for you. But here's a piece of feedback that I did receive on the podcast show. This feedback comes from Spokane Assistant Fire Chief Brian Schaefer. This information is necessary for you and your crew's survival. Whether career, volunteer, resident, part-time, seasonal, or whatever crazy label a bureaucracy uses to label your service, this podcast will benefit you and many, and may even save your life. It's an easy thing to subscribe. It's free, and there shouldn't be an excuse to miss any episode. Thank you, Assistant Chief Brian Schaefer from Spokane Fire, for that awesome piece of feedback. I really, really do appreciate it. I don't share the feedback to brag. Rather, I just share it to show appreciation to those who've inspired me by sending some feedback. If you want to send feedback to me directly, you can just go to the SA Matters website and click on the Contact Us link. That'll send me an email. If you haven't subscribed to the SA Matters podcast, go over to iTunes or Stitcher. You have to search SA Matters Radio, SA Matters Radio, and subscribe. That way you don't miss any of the episodes. Like Chief Schaefer said, there's no excuse to miss an episode. Listen to it while you're driving to work. Listen to it while you're working out. Listen to it when you go to bed at night. That's what I do with my podcast. That's how I go to bed every night, listen to a podcast. In case you didn't know, I've written 5 books on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. These books contain critical lessons for improving your situational awareness and decision-making. Why would you want them? Because there are so many important lessons to learn on this very critical life-saving topic. That's the because. You can check these books and videos out at the SA Matters online store. Click on the store link on the homepage, or you can get them through Amazon. Any book bought through my website, same price on Amazon by the way, but any book bought through my website will get signed personally by me. It's one of my personal requirements. Every book I sell that I ship, I sign. If you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners yet, there's several ways that you can get connected with me. First, by joining as a member. Over 5,000 members connected on SA Matters, sharing lessons on situational awareness. Membership is free. When you sign up, you get a special report that I've created called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. If you want to become a member, go to the homepage, click on the red box, the red one. Red. On the right side of the homepage says free membership. How do you know which one? It's the only red one there. It's the only one that says free membership. If you want to get connected on social media, you can follow at Rich Gasaway or at SA Matters on Twitter. The SA Matters Twitter community is almost 17,000. Thanks for everybody coming along on Twitter. Facebook, yep, there too. You can join the private Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/SA Matters. Entice you to join that. It's free. I threw a coupon in there for 50% off the latest book. That'll save you $20. On LinkedIn, you can also search and find me on Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. Oh, and YouTube. Yep, on YouTube too. Want to watch some videos? SA Matters TV on the YouTube channel. Well, that's it. Episode 117 is complete. Thank you again to my guest, Battalion Chief Ryan Pyle from the Shawnee, Kansas Fire Department, for sharing your incredible story and the lessons learned with our listeners. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all of our live event hosts. And thank you, the listener. If it weren't for you, we'd have no show. I appreciate you spending some of your valuable time with me today. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.